There are incidental accidents on film sets from time to time, but nothing like this. This is a 1 in a trillion episode.
Speaking to the paparazzi in Vermont, Baldwin said he cannot make any comments on the shooting which killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins and injured director Joel Souza. He explained that's due to the ongoing investigation with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department in New Mexico. However, when talking about Hutchins' death, Baldwin said she was a friend and added, quote, "We were a very, very well-oiled crew shooting a film together, and this horrible event happened." Baldwin also confirmed he has since met with her family, describing her husband as being overwhelmed with grief. Vice President Kamala Harris is rolling up her sleeve for a COVID booster.
As we have said from the beginning, the vaccines are free, they are safe, and they will save your life.
Harris received the Moderna booster Saturday in D.C. So far, the CDC has approved booster shots for folks over 65 years of age, those with pre-existing conditions, or who work at jobs with a high risk of exposure. The White House confirmed Harris's job duties of frequent travel and meeting with many people made her eligible for the booster. An investigation is underway after an Amtrak crash left 3 people dead and 1 seriously injured in South Carolina. The North Charleston Fire Department says the Amtrak train slammed into a vehicle about 2:30 this morning. 4 people were found near the heavily damaged vehicle, and 3 were pronounced dead at the scene. Paramedics treated the lone survivor, who was taken to the hospital. American Airlines is dealing with a ton of flight cancellations. The Texas-based airline has canceled more than 1,000 flights since Friday. It's blaming staffing problems and gusty winds for the disruptions. On Saturday, the airline canceled 460 flights. American canceled another 285 flights for Sunday. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. Lower your energy bills and reduce your carbon footprint with the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program.
Hey, I'm Reverend Mitchell L. Johnson.
And I am Young Money.
We're inviting you to join us
for Lottery Pick Presents
My Community Plans Foundation featuring
Young Money.
Let's talk about return on investment
in money and building self-sustainable communities.
We are focused on transforming communities from marginalized to productive,
from blighted to self-sustainable.
Nothing but and a little bit more every Sunday morning, 7 o'clock a.m.
on WCPT 820,
Chicago's Progressive Talk.
They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. Cavities are ooky, so get them fixed today. No ghost of past providers, no Bella the vampire, no bites, just smiles. That's the Total Dentistry way. We're sweet, we're neat, and we're always upbeat. But most of all, we love to fix your teeth. So get your phones ready, keep your fingers nice and steady, but don't text and drive. We can't wait to see you smile. It's the Total Dentistry way. Call Total Dentistry at 847-358-2477 or visit TotalDentistry.org. And ask about our holiday specials. Total Dentistry, 847-358-2477 or visit TotalDentistry.org. Total Dentistry, a general dental practice like no other.
You are listening to Think Theory Radio. Radio. Hello and welcome to Think Theory Radio, the show that brings you topics outside the mainstream realm of thought and ideas to make you think. And I'm your host, Damian Perdue, your spooky guide on this eerie ride of metaphysical delights. And of course, I'm joined by Paulie Woo C.
Oh, yo.
I was trying to think of.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's hard. Yeah. I was trying to think of some kind of ghoulish.
And I was trying not to sound like Santa Claus.
It was very Santa Claus-ish, like Santa Claus's ghost.
Yeah. Yo.
Ghost Claus. And yeah, so the only thing I could think was I don't know, Paul Spector C. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to go back to the drawing board on that one.
Maybe by the next break. And since it is that time of year when the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest, and many cultures around the world celebrate the end of things like Halloween and Samhain and the Day of the Dead. Today we're going to talk about death.
Fun.
That lovely light subject, but not necessarily the morbid sense of it. I guess you could say more so what happens to you after you die. Or, what all the possibilities. It's one of the questions that, scientists and psychologists and mystics have pondered for thousands of years.
I think just about everyone that's been alive has pondered that.
And, some have different opinions. Although I think if you believe in reincarnation, you're probably not too worried about death.
Or if you're particularly religious, I'm sure you're confident in what the afterlife holds for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But I think even a lot of religious people are, maybe not skeptical is not the right word, but slightly worried. Concerned.
Uncertain.
Yes. And, it's one of those things that's kind of, hard to talk about in a certain way, but at the same time, interesting, because it's something that we may never, ever know the answer to until it happens. And if you think about it in any types of terms of scientific reasoning, we'd have to first even understand what consciousness is, which we're still doing all kind of studies and experiments to figure out if it's quantifiable in any kind of scientific sense. So we don't even know, and we don't even know if, consciousness relates to a spirit or anything like this, or what kind of connection consciousness has to the brain or energy itself, because can energy contain consciousness? And if that was the case, would it escape the body upon death? And there's a lot of different theories. I have a list of 30 that I'll get into later, which some are kind of quirky, some are. And then I like different cultural beliefs. I mean, you think of, everything that the Egyptians, they had the whole culture of mummies, creating mummies and wrapping their dead and believing in the afterlife and believing that they would one day reemerge. And a lot of cultures believe in different forms of reincarnation, Hinduism, Buddhism. And some people believe in immortality. Mm-hmm. You could exist forever if you just used your mind.
You get bit by a vampire, maybe.
Yeah. Although I think then you're the undead.
Yeah. I mean, that is
not necessarily. That's true. It is immortality.
To some extent, yes.
And so it's funny. I want to hear definitely what people think. And so I guess we'll get to that. Let's see what the people think about death. Let's go to Steve in the Gold Coast.
Hello.
Yeah, Steve, what's going on, man?
Yes, I think it's an interesting topic, and as you pointed out, this is one that stretches back as far as human beings and their history go. From the earliest recorded records, we see evidence that human beings, once they understood the notion of consciousness, and to the best of our knowledge, we pretty much are the only species on the planet that thinks about this sort of thing. Your dog doesn't wake up one day at the age of 7 and have a midlife crisis, wondering, oh my God, I'm only 7 or 8 years away from death. You're pretty much the only species that we know of that thinks about life in this.
Well, there are animals that do mourn their dead and do have death rituals.
Right. That's true. But the notion of, for instance, elephants don't sit around pondering, and have a midlife crisis and pondering, how much more time do I have? And there are a lot of evolutionary biologists that will contend that we have what's called a God gene. That after hundreds of thousands of years of modern man, that pretty much in order to remain sane, knowing full well that your life is linear and that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, how do you go through life knowing that it ends?
Mm-hmm.
Because, other species don't think about life in that way. So apparently that this explains, according to some people, why we create things like religions and afterlives, the afterlife, reincarnation, anything to allow us to envision something beyond death.
Mm-hmm.
The notion of nihilism, is not a comforting one. There are philosophers who believe in it. Quite frankly, I'm one of them in part.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's, anything after this. We know that from empirical evidence. If you're involved in an accident and part of your brain is damaged, you're not there anymore. And anybody who's been in that situation knows that that is the case. If you've ever had anybody who's effectively brain dead, their body can still continue to function, but they're not there anymore. So then this notion that that somehow I die, and therefore what happened to my consciousness, it went somewhere else. Okay, great, you can believe that as a question of faith, but there's no scientific evidence to support this any more than there is to support the notion that a bee has an afterlife, or a worm, or a lizard, or anything else. But again, as human beings, we want to put ourselves on a different pedestal than every other, species on the planet. So we want to think that, there's some sort of place that we're going to go. It gives us a reason to function in life. It gives us a purpose. Many will argue that if life were infinitely long, you could spend 50 years playing video games and not worry about it, and then maybe get around to doing something else for another 50 years because, what's the hurry? The fact that life is finite, it gives life its point.
Well, and I think some people think that because of the finite nature of life, that's why we do so many of the things that we do in far, innovations and creation and, all of these things, because we know we don't have much time.
Right, absolutely. So, and again, I understand culturally and religiously and all of these reasons as to why people want to believe this. Unfortunately, there's just no science to support the notion that there's something after this. A head of lettuce lives, and then somebody picks it, and you and I consume it. It doesn't have some afterlife unless you think that it's being reincarnated to another head of lettuce. But, I respect people's rights to believe what they choose. You can believe that the earth is flat. Doesn't make it so, but again, you're entitled to that belief system.
Yeah, I hear you. And thanks for the call, Steve.
Thank you.
And my only thing with that is, like I said, we still haven't figured out what consciousness truly is. Is consciousness, is it even coming from the brain? So if it's separated from the brain, sometimes there are theorists and even physicists who, contemplate that maybe there's some kind of energy field, some kind of quantum force that we have not recognized or found yet, that is where our consciousness is kind of floating in. And we know through physics that energy cannot be created or destroyed, and your body does have energy. It has enough energy, it's about, 20 watts or something. It can power a light bulb, right? So, but when you die, that energy has to go somewhere. Now, is that energy related to consciousness? I don't know. It could just be body heat that leaves and, the atoms go back into the universe and float around. Or is there something to this kind of, consciousness and energy combined as something? There's the belief that the universe, everything in the universe that exists only exists because we observe it, which is our consciousness, right?
You've talked about was it 25 grams or whatever?
Yeah,
like that's supposed to be the weight of a soul because the body loses 25 grams upon death.
Yeah, that came from this one scientist. I had it up. I had an article on it. It was 21 grams experiment.
21 grams, okay.
And that was Mr. Duncan McDougall in 1901. He wanted to determine if a soul had weight. And supposedly after he just, weighed their bodies after death, and they were 21.3 grams less. And then he supposedly did the same experiment with a bunch of dogs, and they weighed the same after their death.
What kind of scale are they using back in 1901, though? It's not digital, we know that.
No.
And to get that accurate, with large, things that weigh a lot of pounds to figure out 21 grams. Yeah.
It said he used an industrial sized scale.
Okay.
That was sensitive within 0.2 of an ounce.
Just thinking one of those old school people that bought weed back in the day, the little let me eyeball it here.
The postal. It was like the postal one for envelopes.
Like the alligator clip.
The triple
at the
beam.
end of
Put
it.
him on a triple beam.
Hold up, the bag weighs more, man.
No, he went industrial sized, man. He did it.
Okay. I figured they had to have some sort of weights and measurements that were accurate back then, but I was kind of curious about that.
So, I don't know. And he said he even did it.
Check that scale, McDougall.
Yeah. He even checked for your breath, because he did that. He did experiments to show that when you breathe, you don't lose any weight. So it wasn't the air escaping your body.
Okay.
There's 21 grams.
I am now scared.
The energy, the weight of your conscious energy. Although I don't think anyone has reproduced it. Although it says, I'd see similar experiments, this is on Wikipedia. In 2001, physicist Louis E. Hollander Jr. published an article in Journal of Scientific Exploration where he exhibited the results of a similar experiment. He tested the weight of one ram, 7 ewes. Is it ewes or ewes? E-W-E-S? Some kind of animal.
Ewes.
3 lambs.
Yeah, ewe. Yeah.
And 1 goat at the moment of death, seeking to explore upon McDougall's reported findings. Experiment showed that 7 of the adult sheep varied their weight upon dying, though not losing it, but rather gaining an amount of 18 to 780 grams, which was lost again over time until returning to their initial weight. Interesting. Well, let's go back to the phone lines. We got Jim. What's going on, Jim?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good,
Hey, Jim.
I was thinking of William Faulkner's musing about life. He said, "Life is just a short preparation for a long time being dead." But he was a great author, Faulkner. But I had 2 experiences. I Telly Savalas told the story one time. This is no baloney. That he either picked a guy at hitchhiking or he was hitchhiking, whatever happened. But this guy told him to go into acting and whatever the spiel was. Well, anyway, he went to thank the guy, and the guy had been dead for 20 years. I told that story. It's a true story. Now, here's another one. This is an honest to true story. My best friend, I was on Lakeshore Drive, and I was driving down there. I was about 20 years old, and I was going to pull to this apartment building. I said, I've got one good friend. I said, I wouldn't mind sharing an apartment with him, And his whole name came to me that morning, and I was just, surrounded with him. Anyway, I get to my great aunt's house, and I get a phone call. I got bad news, real bad. I was like, what's the news? He was, your friend was electrocuted this morning.
Oh, wow.
My buddy was electrocuted that morning. But as sure as I'm a foot tall, he was in that car with me for the whole morning.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole morning till I got this phone call.
That's wild.
So, I mean, but what do we know until we get out of this atmosphere? We don't know anything. We've got to blow off this atmosphere somehow. It's, what is it, It's how long? It's like 15 billion years ago that crazy Big Bang happened, and nobody. I mean, for Pete's sake, nobody knows. You've got Aquinas from the Catholic Church talks about prime mover, and Aquinas is walking along the beach. He's a great theologian. And the story is, he's walking along the beach trying to figure what's it all about. What's it all about? So a little kid and an angel in a form, because they take any form of being that they want to. He says, dig your hands in the sand, run to the ocean with your cupped hands, and fill up that hole with the ocean. That's about as much chance as you got to figure this out. Anyway, have a happy Halloween and take care.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, it's definitely exactly what he said. It's a hard one to figure out, but we're going to do it.
And no one's... Well, I was say you just stopped me. I was going to say no one's ever going to have the answer, but it's all part of Think Theory Radio's Meaning of Life series, in which by the end of the series, hopefully, we'll get to the bottom of what the meaning of life is. So it's just like part 2 out of like 5,000.
Yeah, maybe part 3, I think.
Yeah, part 2.
And it might, who knows how long that will take. This series.
Oh, I said 5,000.
Oh, you said 5,000.
Yeah,
okay.
It's going to be finite.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes. Right in 5,000. We got to do it. Okay. I'm committed to this.
That's like 10 years worth of Think Theory Radio episodes.
Yeah. I mean, unless somehow I get a daily contract.
Actually, no, it's 100 years of 100 years of Think Theory Radio episodes.
All right,
my math is off. I just made our work a lot harder.
I may need that immortality to kick in.
Yeah.
Well, I have to be immortal to solve death. It's the only way. The only way possible.
The rollover of listeners that we're going to have.
Yeah.
So tell your kids about it, and their kids.
It's interesting, because I just think about, we've had paranormal investigator on the show before, Norman Basil. He's been on a couple times, and we did a remote, we had the castle, and he brought all his equipment, and there were spots where it did feel this, kind of cold spot that they say, is where the ghosts occupy or whatever, and his like EMF sensor was going off here and there in spots, but and even he would say, well, that's not necessarily proof of anything, but it's interesting. And definitely all the people, there's so many people that have had some kind of experience with, like what Jim said with his friend who had passed away, but he was there with him in the car the same morning, or instances of kind of after someone dies, being visited by them, or even just kind of moving things around or showing you a sign for something. I've had similar experiences, and I know there's like tons, but then, and even on that, I'm always skeptical of everything, right? So is that just pareidolia or apophenia where you kind of see things that you want to see?
So you're getting into the paranormal now, though. And I loved how, when you had him in studio, he had that picture of the Woodstock Opera House, how they keep a seat unsold because whatever the ghost's name was always attends the events there. And he had the picture of like the silhouette of that ghost sitting in the seat there, and that reminded me of I don't know what the venue's called now. I think it's like the Rock House out in East Dundee, right in the main drag there downtown by the river. I think West Dundee, right by the river. And it used to be the Clearwater Theater, and when they were renovating it, it was like it'd been a theater for years, like 100 years or something like that. And I remember playing there a bunch of times, I heard the story once, didn't think anything of it, thought I might have seen something there, didn't think anything of it. But then over time, it was like I'd talk to people, and they're like, the owners for sure, they're like, yeah, when we're renovating it, it's like Mary, I think was her name or something like that. And it was like some woman back in the 20s fell down the stairs, broke her neck, died, was haunting the place. And just really doesn't like being around people, tries to keep to herself. But it was like a friend of mine ran sound there, and he was like going upstairs to run sound. There's nobody up there. And he's like, all right, I'm coming up. And I was like, what are you doing? And like, I'm thinking he's just messing around. Yeah. And he's just like, dude, I don't want to get into it. And like, okay, I thought nothing of it. Then one of my friends, Musa, is telling me all about it. Like, no, it's a real thing. And like, I've seen her around the corner, and like, even the owners for sure, like, just please don't joke about it. It's like there's times where it's like, they'd put up a TV on the big screen there while no one was in the building, and it's like she's changing the channel or like, all right, fine, I'll turn it off.
Well, that's interesting too. Is like I always feel like a lot of the some ghost stories in modern times always seem that they interact with electrical equipment, or TVs or radios or anything, and that kind of can tie into energy and frequencies, and what if consciousness is some kind of vibratorial pattern that like they have a way to extend out and touch things or whatever. When I was in Ireland, I went to a castle that's like kind of in my family lineage. It's the Maddens, the old Maddens. and it was this couple that owned the place, that ran it or whatever. They took me on a tour, and there was this one room they wouldn't take me in, and he's like, this room was, one of the battles that happened at this castle. There was like 13 soldiers that were beheaded in this room, right? And ever since then, now, so they also have the castle's like a bed and breakfast too. So, and when they first bought it, they had that room as a room you could rent. And they said every time they had somebody stay in there, they would come out running out screaming in the middle of the night. So they ended up just closing the room. And they said that there was some clock in there, or like somebody kept having like visions of a grandfather clock, but it was like hearing a grandfather clock, but there was no clock in there, and like all this weird stuff. But it was interesting. I thought it was the fact that he wouldn't show me the room, and he's like, we don't rent that room anymore. So obviously something happened enough to, if you're going to curtail money coming in, you have to believe it enough to you know what I mean? Because that's another room you could rent, but you're saying, no, we're cutting that off.
Well, and I want to say your guest, Norman, was trying to explain that these are like people that didn't make the transition. Yeah. And that's, so which suggests that there is a transition from, life to death and from death into the afterlife. Yeah. And people just kind of get caught right in the middle there.
And when I wonder too, if that if that is a thing, what that has to do with your consciousness and how much you are aware of what the energy state of consciousness is. So if you think about energy, there is energy that is locked here on Earth, that stays here on Earth. And then we have energy that fluctuates in between us and the rest of the solar system, the universe. Perhaps a soul is no different, and it gets trapped here if it doesn't kind of know where it is. But we have that and much more to ponder on. And if you want to give us a call and jump in on this topic, hit us up at 773-763-9278. That's 773-763-WCPT. We'll be back with more Think Theory Radio.
WCPT encourages you to think green. A healthy compost pile is easy to maintain with a few simple steps. Composting relies on heat, water, air, and a mixture of greens, fresh grass clippings, spent flowers, and fruit and vegetable scraps, and browns, straw, dried leaves, and pine needles. Add smashed up eggshells, coffee grounds, tea bags, and even shredded black and white newspaper. Do not add animal products, meat, dairy, gravy, bones, and mayo, or grease and oils to prevent unpleasant odors that could attract animals. Keep a container in the kitchen to collect vegetable scraps to add to the compost pile periodically. Every few weeks, mix the material with a hoe, pitchfork, or sturdy rake to aerate the pile and distribute moisture evenly. In about 6 months, your compost will look like soil, and it can be used to supplement your garden. For more information about composting from the Chicago Botanic Garden, visit chicagobotanic.org.
Susan, I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic is terrible.
It sure is. But on top of that, gas prices have been skyrocketing. I can't believe how expensive gas has gotten recently.
Prices at the pump are up, but I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Get Upside Gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon cash back every time I buy gas.
And does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Get Upside app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code BILL for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your first fill-up. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code BILL for up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. That's code BILL.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Think Theory Radio. This is Damien, and today we are discussing death. And not the original punk rock band from Detroit, Death.
Ah, okay.
Although that would probably be an interesting show. So yeah, what do you think happens, Paul, when you die?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I've gone all
put
over
you on the spot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, put me on the spot, and like I'm gonna be like a total bummer about this too. But I was raised Catholic, Catholic school. Never like it wasn't like it was shoved down my throat. Like my parents just, for whatever reason, decided to raise me Catholic. My mom's Lutheran, my dad's Catholic. So like 1st through 8th grade, Catholic school, and it was like bought into all of it. By about the time I was in 8th grade, I started just kind of lost the faith entirely, and then since then, so I've tried to remain agnostic, and I've kind of gone like full blown like atheist over the years, and unfortunately, I just think it's over when it's when you die, you die. But I want to remain hopeful, but at the same time, it's like I don't know if I totally buy into an existence of a God. I don't know if an afterlife seems logical. What does give me hope is these like ghost stories where it's like, well, it sounds like there's a transition of some sort, like there might be that universal consciousness that you talk about, and you hear like Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about you become stardust. You come from stardust, you become stardust. So I would hope that there's something out there, that there's a meaning to this existence, and that we're part of a greater good and consciousness. But unfortunately, the logical part of me is like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way that there's anything beyond what we're experiencing. Like this was a unique gift that we've been given based on a bunch of circumstances that had to happen and be just right. The planet, where it's located, how it formed, and how we've all formed and how we've evolved. And it's just that's just life. It's just a weird, freaky coincidence that we all got here. So sorry for listeners out there that are religious and think I'm full of it. And, please don't talk me off the ledge or anything like that. I am a very positive person, and I do have hope for humanity. But unfortunately, this is just what the logical part of my brain has walked me into.
I mean, and it's still easy to have a positive life and still have that perspective, because it's in a way you could even have a more positive impact on yourself and society around you if you believe that this is your one and only life, because then it's kind of like, okay, I got to do right this time. You know, I got to figure it out this time. And
whereas I think like kind of the reverse of it, like I think Steve was talking about how, you know, kind of the reasons why we have religion and stuff, you know, to kind of give us that sort of hope and optimism. But I also kind of believe that the reason why we have the idea of religion and the afterlife too was to stop people from just being brutish to each other, you know, and so. You know, I'm thankful for the upbringing that probably forced me to want to do good for this world, whether that was directly the result of like religion or my parents or what have you. So it's like I think man can be conditioned to be good and do good things, even under the assumption that there's nothing beyond the life that you're given. So I mean, I just kind of hope that, you know, other people could take that sort of form of optimism and do good things. Because we only know that we're guaranteed the time that we have right here, so we got to utilize it.
Well, and that's the interesting thing too about consciousness and let's say good and evil, right? If you know that's even like quantifiable as far as I think that you know bad people can do good things, good people can do bad things, but where does that exist within your consciousness? So if you let's say it's true that when you die, your consciousness goes into the atmosphere, goes back to space. Is it holding any kind of good and evil nature? Like, so are there like, you know, and that's what some people think, that there are evil spirits and there are good spirits. You know, is any of that true? Is good and evil is there even any scientific, you know, way to prove that exists within our consciousness? Or is that just kind of, you know, decisions we make in life and our environment, you know, that creates, you know, the type of people that we are? Would that even translate into your afterlife, right? So like, is your consciousness, let's just say it's, because I tend to believe that it's more an energy field and you kind of join back into the energy of the universe, but you may not know that. You may not have the memories of your life or any kind of conscious aspect that we, you know, feel here physically on Earth.
Something that's probably not even tangible to us, yes.
And it's just kind of, you know, it's like taking water, you know, and you take some water out of the ocean, you could put it in a glass, and it's its own cup of water, and it could experience its own reality. But once you pour it back in the ocean, it's just part of the ocean. It's not going to remember its time in the cup.
Or you could leave the cup out in the sun, and it gets evaporated and gets back into the atmosphere and gets rained back into the ocean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. See? Water is formless, Bruce Lee said. Let's go. You want to just do a mystery caller? It is Halloween, so if we go for the mystery caller.
Okay.
Sorry, I put you on the spot. I didn't realize you were answering at the same time. I was calling for the caller, so let's go for it.
Randy.
What up, Randy?
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing fine. Thought-provoking show. As I was listening to all of you, I would say I'm 65 years old, so death does kind of pop into my mind a little bit more than I did when I was 35. And I've reflected three things have influenced me over the course of my life. When I was a child, I was raised Catholic, but I didn't buy into that because of original sin. I just don't buy into that we are bad people to begin with. And then over a course of I felt like while the Bible stories are good and all that, and they maybe explain it, they're really a anthropology of a primitive people from a different time, and that evolved in midlife when I was in my 40s to reading the Bhagavad Gita many times.
Okay.
And that kind of influenced me to a point of reincarnation and entertain the idea of reincarnation. But I really felt if you read it a lot, I see it more of as a metaphor for Arjuna on the battlefield and Krishna helping him understand life. And it's really a psychological metaphor that we internally, the conflict. And then finally, as I'm in my 50s and 60s, I've been much more influenced by Krishnamurti. And especially his book called Freedom from the Known. And one of his things are, I think death And thinking you know something, what happens after death, this is a problem of knowledge. How can we really know something that is beyond our bodily entity?
Mm-hmm.
And we really can't. And so it is really our preoccupation with death is really really kind of a hidden preoccupation with the struggles we are having in our current life. And most of those struggles have to do with our conditioning, and that can be a religious dogma conditioning, political conditioning, cultural conditioning. And the solution of that is to get beyond your conditioning and live mindfully in this moment that you're not impacted by conditioning. So I guess to wrap this up, I probably thank you for letting me talk.
No problem.
We really can't know what happens after our bodies cease functioning. We use the ideas, thoughts about death and religion and belief to help us struggle with the things we're really dealing with now and living. And the best thing to prepare yourself for death is to live life to the best and do if you have a dream that you want to accomplish, strive for it. So at the very end to say, hey, I lived as well as I could possibly live, and beyond. So I guess that's my
all right. Well, I like it, Randy. I'm there with you.
Okay.
Live your best life, as the kids say.
Yep.
And just live each day. Be mindful, and I mean that's kind of best way to live anyway. Whether or not you believe in the afterlife or not.
Live for today. Do good things in the world. Leave the world better than how you found it.
Yeah, and also I think it helps you when you live in the moment more. You will enjoy the moment more than when you're always thinking about kind of the future
and
not
looking at it through your cell phone.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. Not recording it on your cell phone.
I mean, like you see how many times at like a concert or a sporting event or some sort of live event, people are recording it on their phones. And it's great to document it, but there's just something to it to experience it with your own eyes,
Yeah,
and it's,
for sure.
And I know memories fade, but at the same time, it's almost better to have that foggy memory of the moment. However you Mandela affect it, however you may not Mandela affect it, rather than just being like, oh, here's the thing I posted on Instagram 5 years ago, or 20 years ago.
Well, I've seen, and I remember like years ago, just studies based off like photography and how like since more and more people take pictures that there might be some correlation between that and like memory loss later down the line, because it's like you're not forced to remember certain things because you always have the pictures, and now it's even more and more. And then I was just thinking as you were talking about that, do you remember the concert you saw, or do you remember yourself filming the concert you saw?
Right. And that's kind of the thing though. It's like, you could you see it through your phone. So it's like if, like a guest appearance, like, oh, so-and-so came out and jammed with, Bruce Springsteen. And it's like, well, yeah, but you saw it through your phone. You see, like you could see the guy. Right, you could see his facial expressions. You could see it better with your own eyes than you can through your phone, depending on what type of phone or what type of camera you've got.
Definitely better than my phone. That's for sure. Let's go to another caller.
Let's go to Frank next.
Yeah, let's take Frank.
Holding.
I know he's been waiting. What's going on, Frank?
How you doing, Damien?
Good.
A couple things. I remember your Ghostbuster guy last year.
Yeah.
I think he said energy can only be created. That is not correct. Energy cannot be created
or destroyed.
It can only be transformed or changed. For example, you're standing on a diving board. Okay, that is help me out. That's not kinetic energy. But when you spring off that diving board, that is kinetic energy. I'm sorry,
static.
You're standing on the diving board.
Static.
You're static or potential. Your potential energy. Okay, and you spring off that board, you turn into kinetic energy.
Right.
Okay, so the energy is only being transformed. Okay.
Right.
So that's my rant for today, and hope I get my Greek salad, and bless you guys, and I'll hang up and listen.
All right, thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Exactly. And that's what I was trying to say. Like, you can only transform energy into something else. So what happens to the energy in our body? There is measurable energy in our body. Where does it go? But that's the question. Does that energy even have anything to do with consciousness? There's a lot of different scientists and philosophers and theologians and, that are like doing experiments together, working on this, trying to figure out, consciousness and, is the brain actually the seat of consciousness, or is it something else? Is it something that maybe your brain is like an antenna and it connects into this quantum field of consciousness?
The brain tenna.
The brain tenna.
Want to do another call?
Yeah, let's go to another call there before we get to the break. We're going to take Brian and Joliet. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good.
Good. Well, I got a master's degree in philosophy, and a branch of that is philosophy of religion.
Okay.
And, back in spring of 80, I took a course in Japanese philosophy, and essentially that was a study of Buddhism, and the professor was a Buddhist himself. And one day I asked him, where do you think we go when we die? And he said, well, generally Buddhists would say, now that you asked me that question, now you must ask yourself. And basically, I'm a Catholic myself, but I'm not a religious bigot. And there's only so many possibilities. I mean, I'm not at all hellfire and brimstone. I think for people who are especially bad, there's got to be, by justice, some kind of punishment. But I think, I've known a couple atheists that acted way better towards me and others than a lot of so-called Christians.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in person. There could be, the only other possibilities is like going to the light or going to heaven, getting rewarded. Like, I'm convinced when I die, I'm going to go to the light. I can name the other possibility, reincarnation. Others believe nothing happens at all. There's only so many possibilities.
Yeah.
Steve from the Gold Coast, I didn't catch his whole call, but do you remember, is he an agnostic?
I don't think he declared.
He didn't declare, but he did say that he didn't believe that there was like life after death. I think he leans more atheist.
Okay.
Maybe slightly agnostic. I don't want to speak for him, but I think that's...
My point is, no, I don't know. I never met him personally, but just from listening to him, I caught him on the air lots of times. And just from listening and the kind of contribution he makes and motivates himself and the kinds of things he says, 90% of the time I agree with the guy. In my opinion, he's going to get rewarded in life after death, whether he likes it or not.
Take this beautiful life in heaven, you.
Pardon?
No, I was just saying, like, God's yelling at him, like, you're going to take this beautiful life in heaven.
Enjoy it,
don't care what you believe.
Yeah, people like that, but I believe that one good action is worth more than 1,000 good intentions towards other people, I mean.
All right.
That's my opinion of it.
Well, I agree with you.
I'd like to, if I may, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I say something? I'd like to recommend a book you might enjoy.
Okay.
Okay, it's called Sexism and God Talk. Sexism and God Talk by Rosemary Radford Ruther, and that's from 1983. And it's not anti-religion at all. It's pro-religion, but it's kind of an analysis of Christianity from a feminist perspective.
Okay.
And it's very relevant for today. Can I ask you guys a question before you let me go?
Okay, hurry up because we got to take a break.
Okay. Do you guys ever watch The Outer Limits?
Oh, yeah, I love The Outer Limits.
Yeah, I loved it too.
Yeah.
I wish they'd put it on sometime. But anyway.
Yeah, I know I found it on, I can't remember if it was Netflix or Amazon Prime. It might have been on Amazon Prime. I think you can find it. So if you want to.
Thank you very much for taking my call, and you guys have a wonderful weekend, Halloween, too.
You too. Happy
you,
Samhain. Take care, Brian. And thanks for the info. I'm always down with the book recommendations, so thanks. We got to take a break, but I know we got some more callers. We will get to you after this break, and when we return with more Think Theory Radio.
Well, the Democrats are fighting amongst themselves. The Republicans are still trying to overturn the 2020 election, and the Fed is going to stop easing money next year. So what could you do, you ask? Time to buy that new home. Or if that doesn't float your boat, it's definitely time to refinance. Call me, Scott Silberman, at 847-423-0301 to discuss your financing needs. For purchases, I will run you through automated underwriting so you will have a solid pre-approval when you start looking. Realtors really love that shit. Oops. For refinances, whether you are looking to get cash out to consolidate debt or do some home improvement, shorten your loan term, or just get a lower rate, quit waiting. The Fed couldn't be any clearer. Rates next year are going up. So call me today, Scott Silberman, at 847-423-0301. Start online at scottsilberman.go, apmc.com. And yes, this old school liberal still answers his own phone, 847-423-0301.
American Portfolio Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity lender, NMLS 175656, Scott's NMLS 681059.
That's the ease at which you get information. You want it, you get it. Like that. Ask your phone. Group chat, smart home. You're always connected and informed in real time. No waiting. So if you're diabetic and still using finger sticks to read your blood sugar, what are you waiting for? Knowing your blood sugar levels instantly is important for managing diabetes. Call US Med at 800-730-8405 to learn more about continuous glucose monitors, a real-time instant method to track your blood glucose. US Med is an approved provider for Medicare and over 500 private insurers. And the best part? Call 800-730-8405 and we'll give you a free insurance benefits check today. So call 800-730-8405 today. That's 800-730-8405 and manage your diabetes as easy as...
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome back to Think Theory Radio. This is Damien, and today we're talking about what happens when you die. That lovely topic.
And you got the answer?
Yes.
All right. Hang tight, everyone. Coming up, Damien's going to tell you.
You end up at this massive drive-through movie theater.
Is at least something good playing?
No. You have to watch Titanic over and over.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, it's an alright movie, but I don't want to, no judgment on that. Anyway, so before, I know we got another caller, we'll get to you in 1 second. I just, Brian reminded me of something when he was talking about seeing that tunnel of light that a lot of people with near-death experiences say they see.
And I've heard there is a scientific explanation on that because there's sometimes people that come back from a near-death experience and talk about that light. Is that what you're about to tell us?
I have found where Andrew Newberg is a neuroscientist and professor at Thomas Jefferson University and Hospital. He says that the tunnel light is basically as your eyesight fades, you lose the peripheral areas first, and that's why you'd have a tunnel sensation if you see a bright light that could be the central part of the visual system shutting down last. So that's a possible scientific explanation for it. Now that's, but then there's also like dimethyltryptamine, the DMT chemical, which is interesting that like our bodies have a chemical that it secretes upon death.
Joe Rogan, what do you got for us?
I'm not on DMT, and I haven't tried it yet. I would try it, but I haven't tried it.
Some elk urine or
no, but it's a body. It's a chemical your body produces specifically for death. Like it's specifically to ease you into death. So it's odd that we evolved in that manner. That we have something that like. Don't worry, guy. Just like, everything's gonna be all right. Here's some angels, and
So DMT's like the guy at Woodstock that calms you down.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
Take too much acid.
Right.
Like, hey, it's all right, man. Just hang out for a little bit.
Exactly.
It'll be over in a few hours.
Check out these cool lights and colors.
Quick aside about that, about like Woodstock with, like they had people like that where like if you like took too much, you had to hang out in the tent, wait for things to die down. But the whole bit was like, so like, once you came back, it's like, all right, man, you see that guy coming in? That was you an hour ago. You have to go calm him down. So it's like residual.
Right. That's the cycle of life, man. You just keep giving, getting, right? Or pay it forward. And
like if, the love you make is equal to the love, or the love you take equal to the love you make. Yeah.
All right. Before we get into, I want to get some of these weird theories of death out of the way. But before that, let's take another caller. We got Bob in Indiana. What's going on, Bob?
Hey, guys. Nice show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got two observations. I don't have any answers.
Okay.
So, observation one is I believe in physics.
Okay.
So the theory of the cyclical matter of energy makes perfect sense to me. We've got energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to go somewhere, and it doesn't. Energy is not destroyed. So, it's out there somewhere. It's out there.
Exactly. Okay. But where?
Another
observation, and I've seen this, and I believe it to the 90th percentile. I believe in reincarnation.
Okay.
Only because I saw my 10-year-old little brother. He was walking around, we're all sitting around the table, and the old man's drinking a glass of wine. And he looked at my father and goes, I had a friend who was real sick, and I gave him a glass of wine to help his stomach, but he died anyways. Now, dude, that put my hair on every inch of my body on an end. I mean, that's a 10-year-old kid. He's not into these weird theories. He's not reading these weird books. So if you want to explain that one to me, I'm more than willing to listen.
Well, I've definitely read, and I even remember when my brother was really young, he would say stuff like that, oh, me and my grandfather were, doing a fishing trip. And it was but our grandfathers died way before we were born.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have known them.
Yeah.
And there's, you can read all kind of stories about how children have easier connectability to the spirit world or the ghosts. Maybe it has something to do with the kind of... we were talking about this consciousness field, and not knowing, ghosts don't know that they're dead or something, but maybe children are so, because they're closer in age to coming out of, their energy coming out of the universe, maybe they still have some kind of connection to it. I don't know.
Have you ever seen a room full of toddlers?
A room full of toddlers?
Yeah, like a preschool where they're 1 and 2 years old.
Yeah.
And they sit there and they babble to each other. But they all seem to be understanding each other. We don't understand what they're saying. But they've got this language that's working between them.
Yeah.
So tell me where they learned that one.
Yeah, maybe we're telepathic as children and we lose it by the time we got to go to school.
or we get talked out of, or we get...
Yeah, you get talked out of it. Language destroys it.
It's like if you take a child young enough and he gets adopted and moved over to a family of an entirely different culture, sooner or later he's going to learn how to speak whatever language they speak in that culture, and his cultural habits will be the same. But in the initial, you plop him down with a bunch of 1.5-year-old kids, and they're all just sitting there talking all day long.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, explain that, and I will listen.
All right. Thanks, maybe I'll research that for another show. What is the language of toddlers? All right, thanks, Bob. Thanks for the call.
I can tell you, raising a toddler right now, it's ridiculous how much of a sponge children that. I mean, I could say something and he'll just repeat it right back to me.
Yeah.
So I need to be really careful what I say to him sometimes because it gets turned around.
Yeah, when they say that you should really you should just start reading them whatever, if you want him to be a doctor, just start reading medical journals to him. So it'll just absorb in the brain and then later he'll...
the poor kid. I got nothing but baseball stuff sitting around the house. He's...
well, maybe he'll be a broadcaster for your beloved White Sox.
Don't go in the family business.
All right, let's switch back gears. We only got a couple minutes left anyway. So I found this article and it has 30 theories about death. I can't get into all of them, but I'll read some of the interesting ones.
You're going to have to read them fast if there's 30.
Let's see how fast I can read. The simulation theory. If
we're all part of a simulation?
Yep.
Okay.
So what if death was? The simulation theory believes that our lives are just quantitative data in a higher being's video game. Right? The never-ending life story. The never-ending life story is definitely one of the most unique on the list. This claims that when you die, you are immediately reborn into your life again without any memory of the life you had just led before.
I've thought about that one before.
You just keep going. Now, see, the Druids... the Celtic, the Druids, they believed that, Earth was kind of this playground that you're supposed to learn everything, kind of like, the child sponge. And once you actually learn everything there is to learn in the universe, you pass on. But if you don't, you get reborn as another person and you have to relive your life again and not knowing anything until you figure it out.
I would think, though, that if you relived your life, though, that nothing would go exactly the same way. So it'd be kind of certain tangents. So it's
then
almost
that gets into the whole
multiverse and alternate universes.
The cosmic theory claims that our consciousness belongs to the universe, not our individual body. So that's what I kind of got into. The dream theory. What if it was all just a dream? The dream theory claims that when we die, you would just wake up from a very confusing, vivid, long dream.
We're going to call that the Newhart theory.
Yeah, right. That would kind of suck, though. You live this whole life and wake up and it was just a dream.
Wake up to your wife from the first show. Wait, what?
Right.
Or the Dallas theory.
Well, they did it.
Dallas. Where Patrick Duffy was not dead for the season.
And they did a fake Malcolm in the Middle one where he wakes up and he was Heisenberg, he had the whole dream that he was Heisenberg.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They did it. And it was him. They did it themselves, and then it got I think the network was shut it down. You can't use our images and likeness.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was Fox or whoever.
Probably Fox, yeah.
But it was pretty funny because it zooms out and you see his hat sitting, because he's like, I had this hot wife. But she was like, well, I know you were dreaming now.
Walter White waking up next to Jane Kasmerick or whatever. Bryan Cranston next to Jane Kasmerick.
But as the Malcolm in the Middle dad and the whole thing is
Hal.
And I had this kid and I killed him. And
Hal and Lois. That was a great show.
Plato believed that the physical world actually limited our knowledge and that when a person dies, they move on to a new life that is more fulfilling. His theory was that death gives souls a chance to find their true existence.
I'm waiting for the Matrix theory.
I don't have the Matrix one, but I have the Stranger Things theory. If you've seen the Netflix show Stranger Things,
but you can ruin it for me. Or I don't
know.
Well,
there's the upside down.
Okay.
I mean, there's 3 seasons, 4 seasons. So
it's been out for a while.
The show claims that there is an alternate dimension to our universe that a person can become trapped in, being neither alive or dead. Frozen head theory. That's basically just cryogenics, and you have your head, like Futurama, all the frozen heads. All right, one more. The excretion theory. The excretion theory claims that the universe is a giant brain and a human body, and individuals are merely cells. When a cell dies in a human body, it gets excreted. So perhaps that is what happens to people in the end. And with that is the end of the show. Thanks, everybody, for listening and for calling in, and we'll be back again next week and every Saturday, 6 to 7 p.m., right here on WCPT 820 Think Theory Radio.
Tolerance is accepting someone before they walk through the door.
It's about accepting people for who they are as individuals.
Tolerance is celebrating the diversity that makes us great.
Tolerance. Honor the differences.
Picture a world of respect. Visit tolerance.org.
Out
to learn
Chicago.
more.
You can follow WCPT
at WCPT820. And now the TikToks.
I've seen some recipe things on TikTok.
I told you my TikTok ramen hack. It's the best. Wouldn't eat ramen any other way.
So you can learn from TikTok, apparently.
You know, it's all about learning.
It is.
It's all about learning. That's what we're here about. You know, it's learning and sharing. Sharing and caring.
Sharing and caring.
Sharing and caring and all that stuff.
Catch Out Chicago every Sunday, 11 to 1 on WCPT 820.
Driving it home with Patty Vasquez. Weeknights from 5 to 6 p.m. on WCPT